Yes. There we go.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, my name is Jessie Wachter. I'm currently a Global Programs Advisor at Rustic Pathways. I was formerly the Country Director for our Tanzania program, so I'm really excited to be joining this particular presentation, tell you all about Tanzania. I've also worked for the company in Mongolia, in Peru, in India, and New Orleans, and of course Tanzania. So if you have any questions about any of our global programs after this presentation, I am more than happy to help. And tonight we are joined by Kevin Porter, our Director of Global Program Operations.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, Jesse. Really excited to be on this call as well. I'm our former Ghana Country Director for the first 4 years that we were running programs there. And I've also done outreach for Rustic Pathways across the Middle East and Europe for a number of years. About a year or two ago, I switched roles and am now our Director of Global Program Operations. So I work with our whole team of country directors globally and ensure the quality of the programs that we deliver to students on the ground.
Great, thanks. So if you're looking into programs, I'm sure if you visited the website, you've seen that we are currently operating in about 18 countries around the world. And we have nearly 100 programs to choose from. So it's a really great thing that you've chosen to join us on one of these presentations, or hopefully many of these presentations this week, to figure out where you want to go. You can see a snapshot quickly of some of the programs that we have around the world. And tonight we're going to hear a little bit more about where we are in Africa specifically. We are currently running trips in Tanzania, in Ghana, and Morocco, and we also have, not pictured here, a special program for alumni only of Rustic Pathways that operates in Southern and Eastern Africa, so we will cover that in this presentation as well. Rustic Pathways as a company has a very strong mission and vision statement, and that is that we strive to empower our students through innovative and responsible travel experiences and to positively impact the lives and communities around the world. And that means the lives not only of the communities in which we work, but the lives of our students, the lives of your students, and the lives of our staff that are working with our students and within these communities all together, just to make a better place for us to live. We've told you a little bit about who we are, who's presenting tonight, but I'm sure you'd like to know a little bit more about who we are as a company and who specifically will be working with your students in country, who are our staff, who are our guides, who we work with. So we'll touch base on that now.
Cool. So one of the great assets of Rustic Pathways is the way that we bring together leaders from very, very diverse backgrounds and kind of bring them together not only from the destination countries in which we operate, but also from the United States and other locations around the world, and pair these guides together to make a team that can really pull off a really amazing trip for our students. So pictured here, you can see a number of our different staff, and it's worth calling out a couple of the interesting stories on here. The man with the cutoff shirt against the blue background, that's Moses Al-Hassan. He's our country manager from Ghana, and he was actually just rated by the Ghana Tourism Board the best guide in the country for this past year. Standing next to him is Patrick Zimnick, our current Tanzania country director. Really great background, was previously our Mongolia country director and has been in the role in Tanzania, has been doing a really great job after he took over from Jesse a few years ago. Pictured next to them, we have one of our local staff member. His name is Everest. He works as a guide on Kilimanjaro. And to his left, Jackson, who's been working with us in Tanzania for several years. Just above them, against that other blue background, we have Uma Garcia, who is a long-distance endurance horseback rider from the Basque region of Spain. She's run programs for us now in many different destinations all over the world, but has run programs in Morocco for several years. In the top left, we have Shema Etel-Meki, who's our Moroccan country director, has been working with us for 4 years now, and she loves more than anything taking our students out to the communities in which she grew up. At the top there, someone snuck in a photo of me from my time back in the day in Ghana. as you can see, very vibrant, vibrant culture and community behind me. Um, and to my right is our current director of Ghana, Eric Bragg, who has his master's in sustainability from a university in Sweden. He's also currently our executive director for the Rustic Pathways Foundation. So you can see that there's people that we bring together with very, very different backgrounds that all contribute to creating sort of the power of the experience. It's really our local staff that contribute to creating such a powerful experience, and it's through access to their communities, to their families, that are often called out by students to be the real highlights of the program. We are Rustic Pathways. We certainly attend and visit some of the kind of bigger ticket items on a travel route in countries, but really what makes us unique and special is getting out into communities where our students are welcome like family members, and a lot of that comes because of the diversity of the leadership that we put together and the local staff members that we have.
Yeah, and in case anyone was wondering, Everest, the Kilimanjaro guide, that is his given name from his mother. His mother named him Everest, and he is a guide on Kilimanjaro. I forgot to ask everyone, please do use that question box. Throughout the presentation, we'll try and get to as many of your questions as we can, and we'll also have some time at the end of this session to have a question and answer session. So please feel free to type in as many questions as you can think of during the presentation. We'll see if we can get to most of those throughout this presentation.
Cool. I also wanted, as kind of the second group of people that contribute to the programs that we deliver, I wanted to touch on our local partners. For those of you that haven't signed up for programs yet, you may not be aware of one of the primary focuses of Rustic Pathways is on our community service initiatives. About 75% of those 100 programs that Jesse originally talked about are community service based or have some element of service in them. And a huge component of the community work that we engage in is with our local partners. In 2014 alone, we had 41 different community partners. A lot of those are local governments or village elders, things like that. We had 69 different school partners and 59 different organizational partners, which are primarily NGOs. The reason why we engage local partners is so that we're really capturing local knowledge and the priorities in the development of our service initiatives. We're also trying to bring together expertise in the development field and partner that to best harness and capture our student efforts so that they can have kind of the biggest impact possible. We also do it to ensure the continued success of our projects throughout the year. By having organizations on the ground that are dedicated to these initiatives, it allows us to sort of monitor quality and evaluate the impact that our programs are having on an annual basis. So to touch briefly on some of the local partners that we have for our programs in Africa, first wanted to start with the Atlas Cultural Foundation, which is an organization started by some American expats living in Morocco. And the focus of the Atlas Cultural Foundation is on public health, cultural preservation, and education. Some of the examples of past work that we've done with them in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco include restoring a traditional granary, like a 1,000-year-old granary. We did a mural project with them. We've done community gardens. We've built a community center in a very rural village, as well as partaken in some educational initiatives that they run, tutoring programs and things like that. One of our newer partners globally is Save the Rain. And Save the Rain is a project that we're running in Tanzania. It's brand new for this coming year. And what was really exciting, the way that this project all came together was there's a woman, Kelly, who started this organization, again from the US, who has been trying to build these water catchment systems for rural Tanzanians. And every year her typical sort of MO has been to come to the U.S., go through a fundraising effort to try to put together funds to go out to Tanzania and build a set number of water catchment systems, which can basically hold up to a year's worth of clean water, and which greatly reduces health issues and gastrointestinal infections and problems that happen in the local communities. And one of the things that's really exciting is that we've been able to partner with Save the Rain, and there's really no limit to the number of water catchment systems we can deploy. Basically, for every couple of students that come on a program, we fund one of these catchment systems and have the direct labor from the students that are coming on the program to be able to build and install the system. So it's a really cool partnership that's certainly very mutually beneficial, and doesn't rely on this woman's continued fundraising efforts, but rather the amazing experience that our students can have, as well as the local community can have by receiving one of these. I'll kick it over to Jesse to talk about Tapak Safaris.
Yeah, so Tapak Safaris is the partner that we work with that provides our guides for our Kilimanjaro climbs, as well as the guides for our safaris in Tanzania. And Tapak stands for Tanzania Anti-Poaching and Conservation. The owner and founder of this company is extremely passionate about anti-poaching, and he's actually, with a few partners of his own in Tanzania, developing an anti-poaching education program for people that are in the rural areas, especially in the borders of some of the national parks, including those who've actually formerly been poachers themselves. It's a really serious issue in which it brings funds into a region, and there's an education initiative in which poachers are being taught about the effects this is having on the wildlife, and they actually know a lot of the routes the poachers use, and they're turned around and paid a decent salary to actually protect the animals that they used to poach. So it's a really incredible initiative that he's got going there, and proceeds from the safaris that he runs go towards anti-poaching efforts in Tanzania.
Cool. And the last one that we have on the list here is Afrikids. Afrikids has a pretty unique story. They're an NGO that operates out of northern Ghana, and it was actually founded by a woman on her gap year about 20 years ago from the UK. She was taking a year off after finishing high school before starting university, and she went out and was exposed to an issue that occurs in northern Ghana, where it's called the spirit child phenomenon, where the children of parents, if the parents were to pass away within 1 to 2 years of the child's birth, the extended family would try to abandon the child and accuse it of somehow bringing about the death of the parents, which sort of sounds crazy in our day and age that something like this could still be occurring. But this woman saw this cultural practice and wanted to do something about it. So she started this organization, Afrikids, with the specific intent of educating around this practice. She has achieved incredible results in northern Ghana to undermine that practice, including getting it stamped out by local chiefs and having that be something that's very publicized. And they developed a network of the traditional sort of medicine men that were in these areas and had significant influence over the communities, incentivizing them to basically be reporting on any instances that they heard of this practice occurring. And for the most part, they've achieved tremendous results in kind of bringing about the end of this, but they've expanded their mission to include also reducing poverty and working for children's rights. And so some of the work that our students have gotten involved with over the years in Ghana have included a literacy program for street children who are primarily sent away from their families in the villages to go and work as head porters in the local markets. And our students have been exposed to the work that AfriKids has been carrying out through some seminars and some discussions. One of the cool things about AfriKids as well is that while it was started about 20 years ago and grew into become, a multi-million-dollar NGO, the office in the UK is closing in 2018, and they have a countdown on their website of when they expect to close their office and close all UK fundraising, because all of their projects on the ground will be self-sustaining and self-supporting. And they're well on their way to achieving that target, which is a pretty remarkable goal. They've been able to tie all of their initiatives into local enterprise. So the guest house that our students stay at in northern Ghana directly benefits some of the initiatives that AfriKids is working on, and they often will twin one of their initiatives with some money-making enterprise, which is a really cool way of ensuring sustainability. So the third component, third group of people that contribute to our programs is our students. Our students in 2014 came from 62 countries. We have 20% of our total student base is international, and our students came from all over the United States. And really, with over 100 programs to choose from, or right around 100 programs to choose from, we really benefit from students who are very interested in coming on the specific program that they're signed up for. And that energy from our students is really what drives, not only the community work that we do, but drives a positive group dynamic. It encourages our program leaders. It's really quite infectious. And our students, have gone on to do some great work and really been shaped by their programs, and I'll have some comments on that towards the end of the presentation, but definitely want to call out just how much the students that come on our programs really are the drivers of what makes the program so powerful. As I've mentioned, community service is about 75 or 80% of the program offerings that we have. The 5 different areas that we kind of categorize our community service as are education, infrastructure projects, community health, economic development, and environmental projects. Our initiatives in Africa are primarily focused in education and infrastructure. Our infrastructure projects include, even the Save the Rain is infrastructure, but it also touches on community health. Our Faces of East Africa program is an education-based trip. Culture in the Crater, also in Tanzania, is also education-based. Off the Map and Volta Village Life and Service in Ghana both fall within the educational realm, and we'll talk through what those specific initiatives look like. As well as in Morocco, the Souqs and Service program, as well as the Wanderer, are both education and infrastructure. And just to give you a couple of quick facts, last year our students completed 152,379 hours of community service globally on roughly 200 different initiatives. So it's a huge effort that we're putting forward in the world to make huge improvements on such a wide variety of initiatives. If you're interested at all in learning some more about specific outcomes from our service initiatives last year, if you go onto our website at rusticpathways.com, you click into programs, you can see there's a link to community service. And in there's a little bit more of a description, as well as a link to the 2014 service report, which is a report that comes out annually from our Director of Community Service. Her name's Ann Fuller, who's been working with Rustic Pathways for a very long time. And in there's some really interesting outcomes from the work that we've been doing globally, with some stories and student facts and some of the actual project impacts. So as a student or parent, you might be asking yourselves, why should I travel to Africa, or why should my son or daughter be traveling to Africa? Um, you have a couple of biased presenters tonight. Both Jesse and I have worked extensively on the continent, um, but really, I can say, from my experience traveling all over the world, there is really no place like traveling in Africa, and even trying to describe what it's like is a really difficult undertaking. But one of the things that I find so powerful about traveling there is just the vibrancy of the culture, how bright the colors are, how sensory the destination is, how stimulating it is. Life is lived publicly, and so to be exposed to all walks of life, and there's just nothing held away from you, or too private. And I think that when a lot of people think of what is sort of the trip of a lifetime, I think people do tend to think of an iconic trip to the safari in Serengeti, or up to Kilimanjaro, or to a small community village in West Africa, or the foreign exoticness of Morocco. I think it's an extremely iconic sort of trip. I also think that it's really internationally relevant. Countries in Africa are developing extraordinarily quickly. There's lots and lots of reason to be hopeful for the countries in Africa. It's also, commonly misunderstood. I think, Jesse, are you running a poll for me? We wanted to kind of test you real quick and see, how many countries are there in Africa? One of the common misconceptions is that people tend to group it all together and say, oh, what's going on in Africa, or what is this? And really, there's such diversity. You can travel, 8,000 miles from north to south, 3 times the length of, the width of the United States. It's just a massive, massive land area with unique histories and colonial pasts, and different countries' influences, and different tribal traditions. So really, there's a tremendous amount of diversity to the offerings.
Yeah.
And Jesse, do you want to talk through our poll here?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Kevin. That was great. And also, I was going to ask you, do you know how many countries there are in Africa?
I do, and if you gave me long enough, I think I could probably name them all, but I won't bore everyone on the line. But if I had to guess here, I'm going to go with 55.
That is correct. So it was 54 until South Sudan joined as the 55th country. We had a pretty even split on this one.
Yeah, good job. Almost.
About a third of the people got it right.
I'm pretty impressed. We have a well-educated population out here. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and jump into each of the countries that we travel to, and just talk through a couple of the kind of more frequently asked questions on each of the programs, as well as give you a little bit of background on each one of the countries that we travel to. So to start off, I'm going to be talking about Ghana. To set the stage a little bit here, Lonely Planet rated Ghana in the top 5 friendliest countries in the world, and it was rated most welcoming country in Africa. There are 79 different tribal languages and dialects in Ghana alone, with English being the official language. Ghana was the first African country to achieve its independence from Britain, and it is an extremely proud and extremely welcoming country. They're very, very proud of their independent history. They're also developing far faster than any of the other West African nations. We have a couple different programs in Ghana. There's the Off the Map Ghana and the Volta Village Life and Service program, and I'll talk you through each one of those. But before I do, to give you a little bit of background on the weather in Ghana in the summer, it is extremely hot and humid, with temperatures typically during the day from 70 to around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. with a high percentage of humidity. It's technically the rainy season, but what that actually translates to into the student experience is that usually there's a big sudden rainstorm every couple days in the afternoon. So it's really not what you might imagine a rainy season to be like, which is just rain all day, which is definitely not the case. It does tend to be a little bit overcast, but clears up on occasion. But yeah, definitely hot and very, very humid. The food that they eat in Ghana, on our programs, we actually have a pretty good mix of local and international or continental dishes. But trying the local food is definitely a part of travel. And in Ghana, their national dishes are mostly foods made of yam or cassava that gets pounded down into a powder and then stirred up with hot water to make sort of a dough. And typically you eat the dough with your right hand and dip it into a hot, spicy soup with some type of meat, whether that's chicken, fish, goat, or beef. They also have like grilled papaya. They have lots of different sort of peanut dishes, peanut soups, that kind of thing. The bugs is worth talking about. Ghana does sit within a band that is endemic for malaria. So it's worth, prior to travel to Ghana, to discuss with your physician the need for malarial prophylaxis, which is basically those pills that you can take to help prevent getting malaria. The most common prophylaxis are Malarone and doxycycline. And again, we do recommend that you talk with your doctor about which one makes the most sense, or if one makes sense for your son or daughter, or for you, if you're listening in. A yellow fever vaccine is also required. Wireless internet access. Our programs largely are off the grid internet-wise. There will be some access. Usually it's about once a week, or once or twice during the total 2-week itinerary. So students should expect to be sort of off their cell phones, and we'll have a little bit more of a general talk about that at the end. I'm sure it will come up as a question. Cool. So again, the first of the two programs that we offer, there's the Off the Map Ghana. Off the Map is basically the highlights of the country. I absolutely love this program. If you only have 2 weeks to travel anywhere in the world, I love this itinerary because it's really all-encompassing. It gives you a good mix of service. You basically do a road trip from northern Ghana all the way to the south, and in the meantime, some of the activities that you do, you're stopping to meet local chiefs, you're climbing the Bongo Hills for a hike at sunset, playing soccer with the children of the north, going on safari looking for African elephants and monkeys, all sorts of types of antelope. You're going to Kumasi, which is the second largest city, and visiting Kijitia Market, which is the largest outdoor market in West Africa. There's 10,000 trading stalls in the market, and it takes up about 40 acres of land. On big market days, it's estimated that 500,000 people enter the market. You also head down south, eventually to the coast, to the city of Cape Coast, which was the old British colonial capital. Along the coast are absolutely stunning paradise beaches. A little fun fact for any surfers out there, the 1960s Endless Summer surf movie, about 50% of that movie was filmed in Ghana. Our students also visit Cape Coast Castle, which was a fort that was used during the transatlantic slave trade, which has a really powerful tour for our students. And then we finish up with doing a rope bridges in the jungle canopy, about 40 meters above the forest floor in the treetops, which is quite a unique perspective to have. On this program, the accommodations, it's a pretty wide variety, but it's mostly guest houses and hotels. In Ghana, it's not very common to have hot running water for showers, but this program does occasionally. for the most part, we will have access to showers. There might be 1 or 2 nights where students will have to take bucket baths if the water isn't flowing. So it's generally a pretty comfortable program compared to some of our other more rustic offerings, and it's more friendly accommodation-wise than the homestay experience in the Volta or the Volta Village Life and Service program. But yeah, generally pretty comfortable accommodations in guest houses and hotels. The community service work that we do, there's 20 hours of community service, and that is focused on building a school called the Beacon Community School that we've been working on for several years.
Hey, Kevin, can you touch base a little
The
bit on
next
how often...
program we have in...
Oh, sorry, I think there's a delay. Can you touch base for
Yep, go ahead.
Ghana, how often students are going to be able to contact home?
Yeah, for these programs, the internet access again is about twice on the program. Toward the end of the program, actually, when they're in Cape Coast, they will have access. You know, generally we try to get students to unplug and plug into the program as much as possible. If a student ever needed to contact home, we can certainly facilitate that. We can also always be reached in country communication-wise. Our program leaders are never off the grid. But again, just from the kind of experience of running these programs, the more a student can sort of unplug and get off their phone and not be, missing watching an elephant walk by while they're trying to Instagram or send a Facebook message to their friends, kind of the better. But yeah, know that our students can always contact home through a program leader's cell phone if they have to, but we generally sort of discourage it, and cell phones are discouraged or not allowed during program activities, but they can pull them out, at designated times at night and things like that. Generally it's pretty expensive to go about getting an international plan, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but again, students will have some time to be checking in on Wi-Fi like towards the end of the trip.
Yeah, and as parents that are on the line,
Cool. And if I didn't fully answer that for you,
just to keep in mind,
go ahead, Jesse.
Parents are always alerted when students have landed. So if you're worried about having your student land and then not hearing from them until they get back, as soon as your students land safely in country, for any country that they're traveling to, we will send you an email. It's called a safe arrival email, just to let you know that they have landed safely and they're in our hands and beginning their programs. We also have a 24-hour emergency line that runs 365 days a year. So if something happens on your end and you need to get in touch with your students, you can call us. You'll reach our main office any hour of any day, and we can patch you into the local staff and they can connect you with your students. So there's always a connection there, and vice versa. If anything happens in country, we will immediately contact you. As far as cuts and scrapes, maybe not, but if it's something where we need to take a student to a clinic or a hospital, you will know immediately. We'll be sending you updates. So if there's anything that needs to be communicated, never fear, we will definitely get in touch, or you can get in touch with us. But if it's something where the student is just having a ball on their trip and they are so totally immersed in their experience that you haven't heard from them, we consider that a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Cool. So just to get back into the Volta Village Life and Service program, this is a program that operates in eastern Ghana in a region called the Volta region. It's east of Lake Volta, which is actually the largest man-made lake in the world. It's about 5% of the total area of the country. And it's held back by the Okosombo Dam, which was the largest hydroelectric project in the world in the 1960s. The program that we operate out here is considerably more rustic than the Off the Map program, as our students are participating in a local homestay for about 1 week of the itinerary. The community is it's called Adaklu, and it's basically at the foot of Mount Adaklu, which is very convenient. But we've had a relationship with the Queen Mother of this region for several years now, and have been running programs in the villages of Adaklu. The daughter of the Queen Mother, Princess Akos, is actually one of our staff members who helps to facilitate this program. And she's done some really, really amazing work. Our students in the past, several years ago, built an eco lodge to host travelers visiting to see the local organic brown cotton that's produced by the communities. And for the last year and continuing into this year, we'll be working on building a new middle school in one of the villages where one of the previous schools had suffered some flooding damage based on the location it was in. A couple of the highlights from this program, obviously the community service work is really, really powerful. Our students, while they're also out in the Volta region, get to go up and they visit a monkey sanctuary. They get to hike up to Vli Falls, which is the highest waterfall in West Africa. They'll hike to Gemai Mountain, where there's this really interesting German colonial town. They visit Cape Coast as well, and the city of Elmina, where they'll visit a different fort that was involved in the transatlantic slave trade, and they'll also get to spend some time on the beach. But again, about a week of this program, just over a week of this program, is dedicated to the community service work. The accommodations, students will be paired in small groups. Typically it's 2 or 3. It's always done by gender. And they'll be placed with a family that we've worked with for the last few years, and that's specifically trained by the princess and the Queen Mother. So her family, to have the royal backing, means quite a lot in these communities. During the homestay, our students will be eating breakfast and dinner with their homestay family, and we are able to cater to specific meals and diets. It's more easily accommodated on the Off the Map program where there isn't the homestay component, but we certainly can do it, and we can supplement with different types of meals and things like that. Cool. I think that covers that. We'll answer any questions that people have after. Morocco is a very, very... Yep, go ahead, Jesse.
Hey, Kim, we got a couple questions right off the bat. I know you're just starting in Morocco, and I just wanted to make sure you touch on the proper dress in Morocco.
In Morocco or in Ghana?
In Morocco.
Cool. So dress for our students, especially for females, we ask that students are dressed fairly conservatively. For both actually Morocco and Ghana, a lot of people won't necessarily assume that there has to be conservative dress for Ghana, but to operate in more remote or rural villages, it's customary for girls to at least be hiding down to their knees. So really steering clear of short shorts is what's most culturally appropriate. In Ghana, the tops are less of a concern, so tank tops and things like that are okay. In Morocco, generally, we do ask that students wear more conservative dress, so it's more appropriate to be wearing things that will cover shoulders as well as cover the majority of the leg. So things like capris or travel pants, or like kind of the tie style pants, those are all really acceptable and encouraged. We're really trying to stay away from wearing shorter shorts. In certain communities, like along the beach and things like that, there might be times on the program where it's more acceptable, where there's more like tourist influence or something like that. But generally, we try to be very culturally sensitive as an organization, and we find that often yields like the best reception for our students, and we are trying to train our students to be great travelers. So yeah, generally in Morocco, covering shoulders, so t-shirts, and things that will cover kind of 3/4 length is generally the best. And if we have had students that have showed up without that kind of dress before, and we'll usually improvise and make skirts and things like that, longer skirts. But we do ask that you pack appropriately, and we'll give you. There's a communication that will go out directly from your country teams after you've signed up in May that has additional information about dress, and so you can reference that there. There's also packing lists on the website for each country that will have some information about dress.
Great, thanks.
Cool. So to hop into Morocco, a couple of things about Morocco. It's just, it is such an exotic location. There's, I don't know if I've ever been in a country and felt as stimulated as I have been in Morocco, just with the smells and the sights and the colors and the spice in the air and the sounds of the street markets and the chanting of the snake charmers and things like that. It really does feel like you're in a movie versus just visiting a different destination. Really amazing history, sort of confluence of trade between Europe and parts of Africa. There's Middle Eastern influence. So really, really exotic and very, very unique destination. The weather in Morocco in the summertime, it will be mild and warm in the north, sort of with a Mediterranean summer type feel. It will be extremely hot in the south along the Sahara, where a couple of our programs venture into. And it will be humid and cool along the Atlantic coast, which again, actually all three of our programs will visit. So when packing, you might not immediately think to pack a sweatshirt or something like that, but along the coast you'll definitely want something a little bit warmer, even though when you get out to the Sahara you'll be wishing you had that extra space in your bag. The food in Morocco, it's a lot of things like tagine is the national dish, which is vegetables and meat and potatoes put into a clay pot with lots of different herbs and cooked over a long period of time. Also couscous, which everyone knows about, mixed grills like grilled meats and things like that. We can certainly accommodate vegetarian diets as well. Cool. And the bugs in Morocco are a lot less of an issue. We recommend that students bring bug spray for various points on the trip when you're going into the waterfalls, or we do some exploration of a really well-known gorge, and so there's definitely some bugs down there. But overall, a very different bug landscape than Ghana, just because the humidity is quite different. Wireless or Wi-Fi on the program is a lot more readily available in Morocco, so that typically every few days on the program there is access to Wi-Fi, should you choose to take advantage of it. 3 different programs in Morocco. The first is our advanced photography workshop. As the name implies, it is a photography program where typically at least once a day there will be a specific workshop, of whether it's the morning or it's an afternoon session reviewing the day's photographs. We will have trained photographers on this session in addition to our program leaders. Some of the past staff for this program, we've had a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer on this program. It is one of our advanced photo workshops. So as an organization, we have a lot of photographers that work for us, but this is sort of the premier photo program that we offer. So it tends to draw the highest caliber staff members.
I was going to say, in regards to the level of photography skill on this program, students definitely need to have a general foundation in how to use your camera. I've spoken with our photography director, and this is the number one thing that he emphasizes. You don't necessarily already need to have a professional portfolio that you've worked on for many, many years, but you do need to have a basic understanding of shutter and aperture, speed priority, and how to use your camera in manual mode so that we don't have to teach the basics and we can start with the group right into the fundamentals of taking good photography, composition, lighting, things like that. So as long as you can use your camera to its full potential as far as all of the fundamentals, we can definitely run over things with you, but that is the key for any of our photography workshops.
Cool. Yeah, this program does have a homestay component. It's a pretty short homestay. Generally, the accommodations are very comfortable with warm showers and Western-style toilets. There's an exception of 2 different locations in the country. Once our students are out at the desert camp in the Sahara, and also one village. The highlights of the program include visits to Chefchaouen, which you may have seen images of. It's the blue city, which pretty iconic. It's up settled in the Rif Mountains. Our students also visit Fez, which is the largest car-free urban area in the world. This is a little fun fact. That's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site where you may have seen images of leather being tanned. But pretty incredible location. The camel trek in the Sahara. We visit the waterfalls at Akchor, visit Roman ruins, get up to the High Atlas Mountains. So there's really a lot going on with this program. But again, as Jesse mentioned, the basis is on the photography. Next, we have our Moroccan Wanderer program. This is our most popular program in Morocco. And similar to the Off the Map Ghana, it's a very all-encompassing program. So it's really the highlights of the entire country. It does a little bit of service work, 12 hours of service in the High Atlas Mountains, working on a school with the High Atlas Foundation. It's a very similar itinerary to the Advanced Photo Workshop, with the exception that because they're not doing photography, they have a couple additional activities and spend a little bit more time exploring some of the destinations. It also visits Marrakesh and visits Jema Al Fna Market, which is another UNESCO World Heritage Site. Visits Chefchaouen, the oasis on the border of the Sahara, goes out into the Sahara on a camel trek, and also visits Essaouira, which is a little different from the Advanced Photo Workshop, which is sort of a bohemian coastal cobblestone city, which is really beautiful. The Souqs and Service program is our more intensive community service trip. It spends roughly the first 8 or so days in a village in the High Atlas Mountains. It does 30 hours of community service, so it's a pretty full-on community service. Again, we're working with the Atlas Foundation, and the work that we're going to be doing this summer, we're still finalizing what those projects will look like with our local partner there. But our past work was some of the things that I touched on earlier, which was restoring a traditional granary, doing some educational outreach, including English tutoring, and a mural project, as well as building a community center. A couple of the highlights on this trip are the visits to the High Atlas Mountains. We visited a different waterfall called the Cascade d'Azud, which has these Barbary apes all over the falls. There's amazing swimming and waterfalls in these kind of beautiful pools in this sort of desert oasis. Our accommodations, when we're up in the village, it's fairly rustic. It's sort of an inn of the village. Our students are broken up by gender in kind of small groups, typically between 3 and 5 will be placed in each one of the rooms. The second half of the program The trip will spend a couple days in Marrakesh. They stay in a really nice riad in Marrakesh, and then there's some other travel throughout the country. But the accommodations are really nice for the kind of rest of the itinerary. Um, cool. I'll kick it over to Jesse to go through our offerings in Tanzania.
All right, great. So I know that we are coming up on an hour here, guys, and I don't want to keep you here too long. So I've got a couple questions, quick questions for Kevin about Morocco, and then I'm going to breeze through our Tanzania programs and then allow time for questions. Anything that I didn't cover in Tanzania while I go through this quickly, then we can definitely cover in our question and answer session. But I want to make sure that everybody gets to see the presentation if you do have to head out at the top of, or at the half hour. Quick question for you, 2 questions about Morocco, Kevin. For students that are currently signed up, they are still, we've got a few questions about domestic flights and when they can start booking their flights. Do you have any idea about the international flights for Morocco?
Sure. So we actually just found out from, we for many years have been using Royal Air Morocco for our international flights because they had direct flights from JFK to Casablanca. However, we just learned that they are not going to be running service every day as we kind of needed them to. So we're currently in negotiations on some new contracts, and that information will be finalized probably in the next week or 2. At which point we'll send that information out through our personal travel advisors as soon as possible so that you guys can book those domestic flights. But yeah, you should have that information probably within a month.
Great, thank you. And also, there's some concerns about safety in Morocco and our programs. Can you touch base a little bit on that?
Sure. So, one of the things is, again, with kind of perception of Morocco as a Middle Eastern destination and things like that, it's logical given the kind of media outlook, especially here in the United States, for there to be some concerns about Morocco. The way that Rustic Pathways monitors safety and security is through a number of different resources. One of those is the Overseas Security Advisory Council, of which we are a part, which is a wing of the U.S. State Department overseeing sort of enterprises and their interests abroad. We also interface directly with the State Department, contacting embassies and things like that for updates on situations ongoing in country. We also have a contract with International SOS, which is one of the world's largest security and intelligence providers. It's also an evacuation provider for instances in country. In addition, we also monitor local and international media sources. We have full-time country operations whose job it is to monitor safety and security on the ground. If a country ever fell outside of our security profile where we're comfortable running operations, we would have no problem canceling it, as we've done in the past. We have canceled operations in Thailand due to a political unrest as a result of a coup. We've altered programs, changed programs in country based on regional issues that have come up in the past. But currently, all of the information that we have for Morocco, Morocco is actually very, very, very safe as a destination. It is currently rated a low travel risk according to International SOS. And much of the economy is established for tourism. So it really is a very welcoming destination. Again, I know that the perception could be that that there's tension, being that it's a Muslim country, but really Moroccans are extremely welcoming. And yeah, Morocco receives something like 30 million visitors a year. It's very close to Spain, obviously across the Strait of Gibraltar, and they get a ton of European travel and tourists. So the Moroccan government cooperates very closely with the U.S. government on monitoring and evaluating their security landscape. So really, there's a lot in place in Morocco, and yeah, we do watch all the different kind of resources that we have for ensuring the continued safety and security of our operations.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. All right. So Tanzania, my home away from home for many years. Again, I'm going to quickly go through these program options, and please do let me know if there's a question that you have that I haven't covered. But the weather in Tanzania in general, in East Africa, it is slightly below the equator, so it is technically their winter, although it doesn't change that much from summer to winter in Tanzania. It just gets wetter or drier. So Tanzania is going to be a little bit cooler. Students definitely need to bring a sweatshirt, a hoodie, something to bring in to wear in the evenings. T-shirts and shorts will be fine during the day, but they're going to want to bring something a little bit warmer for the cooler evenings. The perception typically is that when they go on safari, they're going to be in the heat and the hot, but that is not necessarily the case. So definitely bring some warmer clothes. Bugs is also not an issue. A lot of questions about mosquitoes and malaria. This is definitely something to consult your family travel doctor with on malaria, but I can let you know that it is the drier season and all of our programs run out of the north except when they visit Zanzibar. So they're not necessarily in an area around water, and it's the cooler season. So mosquitoes is actually not a major concern in Tanzania at this time of the year. As far as Wi-Fi access, students can have Wi-Fi access when they are in a base town. So if you take a look at the itineraries on the website, if it says that they're in Arusha, they may have access to an internet cafe where they can go and send a quick email home. Otherwise, very little reception and very little internet access. These are some of our more remote programs, especially Culture in the Crater is going to be very remote. It's not going to have any running water or electricity. So definitely something to keep in mind. These are more rustic programs and there's going to be more limited contact home. Again, you can always reach us if you need to, but students are going to be in a more remote area. All right, I'll head into the programs. So starting off with climbing kili, this is definitely one of our most adventurous programs we offer at Rustic Pathways. It is climbing one of the 7 summits, the 7 great summits of the world. It's a pretty incredible undertaking for a teenager. I'm always incredibly impressed with all the kids that come. We do have students from 14 up climbing the mountain. We take the Marangu route. There are 5 different routes up the mountain. This route does have cabins. So you see the students up there in the top right. They're sleeping in one of the cabins. They're not sleeping in tents. It's a little bit warmer because of that. So they do need a very warm, highly rated sleeping bag, or I should say lowly rated sleeping bag. But they're going to be sleeping in chalets or cabins where it's a little bit warmer for them. The temperature for the mountain varies greatly. They traverse 5 different climate zones, all the way from rainforest all the way up to Arctic at the top. So they can start this trek in shorts and t-shirts. They'll need to have a good pair of hiking boots, but it's going to be a lot more wet and really beautiful, very, very lush and green. Not typically what you picture when you picture the mountain, but they'll traverse all the way up. They'll hike through tundra and savanna. They have the chance of seeing some exotic animals, not any of the major game animals necessarily, but some beautiful birds. And it's a 6-day route. So they're 4 days up to the top and 2 days down. It's technically, you are able to reach the summit with this route in 5 days. However, we take an additional day where students just hike up a little bit and they come back and sleep at a lower altitude in order to help our students have the highest success rate as possible. So the 4th night is really where you're going to get to the colder weather, or the third night, 4th day. That's when you're going to reach the final hut where the students will go to sleep, and then they begin their climb around midnight. And then they will hike all the way from midnight up till about sunrise. They try and reach the summit around sunrise, and they'll come back down and they'll sleep at the 2nd hut. So all the way past the 3rd down to the 2nd hut and sleep at a lower elevation. It's a beautiful, beautiful climb. I've done a lot of my mountain climbing in my time, and this is one of the most beautiful and scenic climbs that I've ever done. It's Africa's tallest mountain and Africa's only freestanding mountain, or it's the world's tallest freestanding mountain. All right, so Culture the Crater. We have 3 service opportunities in Tanzania. We have 5 programs altogether, 3 of which are service programs. 2 of those 3 options are 2 weeks long. So that just to kind of keep them separate in your mind, we've got 1 week service option, 2 2-week service options. And Culture in the Crater is definitely one of my more favorite programs. It is a really well-rounded program, and definitely a program where if you're looking to get the most out of a trip in Tanzania, I think this kind of has it all. You do go on safari in this program. You'll visit the Ngorongoro Crater, which is a National Heritage Site. You'll also visit the Hadzabe tribe, and that's the tribe, the ethnic group that you see in the picture there on the right. Students actually get to spend a day with them. They're one of the few truly nomadic tribes left in the world, and I really love talking to families about this trip and this particular day of the trip, because this is an ethnic group that is struggling right now in the light of civilization. They are a nomadic tribe, like I said. They are a hunter-gatherer society, so they don't farm, they don't herd animals, and it's like taking a step back in time. It's truly a really awesome experience. They'll get to learn how to make fire using flint. They'll get to learn how to shoot bows and arrows, as you see there. Really, really cool, very authentic experience for this area of the world. The service itself is broken up into a couple different components. There is some time that they'll spend in the classroom. They will be working with various grades on different subjects, and they will have some time to do lesson planning and prepare for this time in the classroom. They'll also have conversational partners. So they're going to be working with the eldest grade of students, which is 7th grade in this primary school, who is studying for their English exams. And they'll do a Swahili English conversation exchange where these students will teach your students some Swahili terms like jambo, mambo, and hakuna matata, things like that they may already know and picked up on Lion King. And then they'll also be teaching them some English and helping them with their conversational skills. And the final service project on this is going to be an infrastructure project, something typically based around the primary school. In the past, we've built staff housing so that they can send additional teachers to the schools. We've built additional classrooms at the school. So depending on where the school is this year, they'll be doing some sort of infrastructure development project. And I know that one student asked if you could focus on one particular project, and that's definitely possible. You will spend some time with the kids, and believe me, you're going to want to. They're incredible kids in this village. But if you want to focus on the infrastructure and less in the classroom, that's definitely possible. This is also the program that offers the most community service hours at 55 hours for the 2-week program. Face of East Africa is our 1-week service option. This is the program that if you're looking for the program that's the most quote-unquote comfortable in Tanzania, you would steer yourself towards Face of East Africa. Culture in the Crater, I may have mentioned earlier, has no electricity and no running water. It's definitely a lot more rustic. Students will get the chance to shower when they leave the village on those excursions and stay in a guest house, but when they're in the village, it's definitely a very rustic experience. Face of East Africa, they're still in a rural village, but this village is actually located at the base of Mount Meru. It's a really green, lush area, lush with banana plantations. So everywhere you go, if you see in the top picture there, the students behind them, just these great big broad leaves that shelter you from the rains that come down. It's not super rainy, but it can sprinkle in the mornings. So definitely want to bring a raincoat. As far as dress is concerned, in general in Tanzania, very similar to Ghana. When you're in the villages, you're going to want to be dressed a little bit more conservatively. This image in the middle with the students is a really good example. You see a lot of dresses, long skirts, capri pants down to your knees. Again, it's not really hot, so you're not going to have a hard time with it being with overheating and being in too many clothes. You're going to want to be a little bit dressed in like a little jacket and some capri pants. The service projects are actually very similar to Culture in the Crater. You're going to have the chance to work with some of the elder students in some of their lessons and work with some of the younger students doing some arts and crafts. We have an art teacher that comes that's a local Tanzanian artist that does batik work, and he's actually teaching the local students some ways to do drawings and batik work, which is something that you actually don't find at all in any public Tanzanian school system. It's a really fun aspect of the program that I've been working on with a local artist and that now continues in the villages, introducing students to art and just having fun and drawing and being creative, whereas most of the public education system in Tanzania is copying things off a chalkboard and more rote memorization than creativity, which is a lot of fun to see the kids do that. And then there's also a construction or development project at any given point at this village, which you can see there in the middle. We built this 2 additional classrooms in this year, where that picture is. Safari and a Splash of Paradise. I promise you guys I will make this quick. This is one of our, obviously, adventure programs. It's going to be a 7-day program. 3.5 days you're going to be spending it on safari. It's the only program in Tanzania specifically that visits the Serengeti, which is incredible. I think it's one place that you should definitely go in your lifetime. It's what you imagine when you picture The Lion King. We've all seen that. Your students have grown up with that movie. This is where you're going to find Pride Rock. This is where you're going to find one of the greatest varieties of wild animals, and you're absolutely guaranteed to see animals on this trip. Herds and herds of animals in the Serengeti. It's absolutely amazing. The second half of this trip is in Zanzibar. So the students, after their land safari, they're going to fly to the island of Zanzibar, which is the Spice Island, a very, very rich history here as well. They'll learn some of the slave trade history. They'll learn the spice trade history. They'll go on a spice tour, learn about the origins of the spices. They'll do some shopping, and then they'll also go on an absolutely incredible sailing safari where they sail in a traditional Swahili dhow and get an amazing seafood feast. And it's just a really great combination if students are looking to combine a service program with an adventure program. Either the mountain or the safari, or both if you've got the time, is a great combination. And then our final service program, as Kevin mentioned, this is a newer program for us. We've actually been working in conjunction with this NGO, Save the Rain, for a couple years now. They've actually done some of the rain catchment projects in Njoro Village, which is where our Faces of East Africa project runs. So we have known the founder, Kelly, and we've known some of the people that have been working with this NGO for a couple years now. And we're really, really excited to finally have the chance to share this with our students during the summer. This is a nice, well-rounded program as well. It's 2 weeks. It's 35 hours versus 55 hours on Culture in the Crater. And the reason for that is they go on a little bit longer safari. And they also have a day where they do some cultural immersion activities and some hiking. So it's going to be balanced with about 7 days of service, working directly with these families. It's not a homestay. They will be staying in a guest house that's near the village. They'll be working directly with the families, building these rain catchment systems for the families in which they have, as Kevin mentioned, provided the funds, which is a really, really fantastic project, as well as getting to go on safari and doing some cultural immersion activities as well. And finally, I definitely want to bring Kevin in on this one. This is sort of our flagship program. It's a brand new program that we're offering this year for alumni only. So every year we're going to be offering special programs for Rustic Pathways alumni, students that have traveled with us that we know to be the type of students that we want to take on these incredible exploratory journeys. And this is our alumni only program for Africa. We are going to be visiting 5 different countries in a 3-week span, so it's a lot of travel, but we're going to be hitting as many highlights as possible. We're going to go to South Africa and Lesotho and Swaziland, Zambia, and then up to Tanzania. So we'll actually get to do some of the bits of the safari program on this program, but in addition to a lot of really cool activities and sites, sounds, tastes, everything involved for this program. And I'll let Kevin kind of add his take.
Sure. Yeah, I talked a little bit at the beginning of the presentation about sort of how Africa is an iconic destination. Basically, we had our staff who were most passionate about our operations in Africa kind of put their heads together and create their wish list of the things that they would see and do. And so we put together this itinerary, which really is the best of the best. It has sort of everything built into the itinerary, and we're hoping to we're running 2 sessions of that this summer, and we're really excited because Jesse will actually be running the first session
Woohoo!
with another staff member of ours, and I'll be running the second session. So we're really looking forward to running this program, and yeah, the highlights from Serengeti to Zanzibar to Victoria Falls, and the travel that we do in South Africa, including diving with great white sharks and the cage diving and Table Mountain, going up to Swaziland and pony trekking in Lesotho. It's really an all-encompassing adventure.
Okay, phew. It's another quick section of the presentation, and then we will have you out of here, and you can stay as long as you want to get your questions answered. Just a quick note, if you don't have time to stay with us, I know we've run a little bit long tonight, type in your questions in the answers box, and we will definitely email you and get back to you. You're also always welcome to email us at hello@rusticpathways.com, or you can email me personally at jessie@rusticpathways.com, and that's JESSIE. So thank you so much for sticking it out, everyone.
Cool. One last slide here before we jump into a couple administrative details. One thing that we're really proud of at Rustic Pathways is that every student has a story, and that story doesn't end with the program that they go on. We have countless examples of students who were somehow or for some reason drawn to a particular program. They ended up traveling on the trip, and it completely changed the direction and trajectory of their life. We have one thing that I would recommend, especially to all the students out there, is checking out some of the videos that are up on our YouTube channel. You can just search for Rustic Pathways on YouTube, and there's so many testimonials of students that have gone on programs, and you can really see the impact that it's had on students. A kid that is interested in animals and goes to the Australia Zoo that has then gone on to study zoology in university. One of our oldest Rustic Pathways alum, who was on a trip 32 years ago on one of the first Rustic Pathways adventures, is the founder of an organization called Wildlife SOS, which is now our partner for our Dancing Bear program in India. So there really is a pretty amazing continuity to the programs, and we have so many stories, and I wish we could regale you with all of them, of students that have gone on to do really, really amazing things based on sort of the impact that their trip had on them. Jesse, do you have anything you want to add on that?
No, I think we've got it.
Cool.
All right, and for those who have not yet signed up, we're going to just swim through these next slides, and then we're at the end, I promise, guys. How it works. So basically, when you're ready to enroll, once you've got all your questions answered, if you've chosen a trip or two, you're going to go to our website, which is the next slide. It'll have enroll now in the top right-hand corner of any page. If you're looking for deadlines and availability, we do have one deadline coming up on March 1st, which is when our regular season switches into our late season, and the application fee goes from $100 to $200 on February 28th, actually. So make sure that if you are looking to register, you get in before that deadline. Availability is actually visible on our website for all of our sessions. They'll be color-coded whether they're sold out, limited, or very limited. Flights for all of our destinations, including Africa, students are required to fly on our chaperoned group flights. We have hub airports, and for Africa, this is going to be New York, for Morocco, Ghana, and Tanzania. Students will meet at the hub airport in New York, and we'll have an airport coordinator. We'll also have a group chaperone that will join the students. You'll all be wearing your Rustic Pathways t-shirt, and you'll fly down together, go through security, through customs, and meet your in-country staff. I mentioned a little bit that you're going to have a personal travel advisor. This is a small picture, a group of our personal travel advisors at the main office. They are wonderful. They are going to be your new best friends throughout the duration of the spring up until your departure date. They can answer pretty much any question that you can throw at them. So again, if we didn't get them answered tonight and you're already registered, or if you register soon, you're going to be paired with one of our personal travel advisors. They can answer any packing list questions, flight questions, itinerary questions, If you need to know what you're going to eat for breakfast on Wednesday, they may not have that kind of detail, but they will probably try their best to get you that information. So just know that you have someone that you can go to with any questions after you do register. And then the world is calling. So we have gone about 15 minutes over. Again, thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you so much for your patience. We've got some time for questions and answers, so if you're sticking it out a little bit longer, we will get to those now. All right, so it looks like we have some questions about the best way to carry spending money, and will they have a chance to change money in country? Kevin? Oh, did we lose you, Kevin?
Oops, sorry about that. I muted myself for a second. Yeah, so each country handles it slightly differently based on kind of the currency and what's recommended. But what is typical is that we do ask for students to exchange money ahead of time. Most banks will be able to do that. But we will be sending out a communication in May from the country teams that will give you more of an introduction to the specific people that will be sort of running your programs and covering last-minute things like dress code and any donations for community projects or packing list items, things like that. And in that communication, they'll have some specific stuff, but generally we recommend that students bring a debit card or ATM card, which is oftentimes the easiest and cheapest way of getting out cash in country, and almost all of our programs are able to facilitate getting students to an ATM, either at the airport or during the program. And our program leaders will talk through best practice for keeping and carrying cash with our students in country.
Thanks, Kevin. Right. Are you allowed to change trips if you're already signed up for one? So I'm guessing that we did such a good job describing these trips, now you're confused as to which one you want to do. Keep in mind that all of our trips within a given country do combine. So if you want to add a trip, that's definitely possible. If you want to change a trip, that's also possible. Speak with your personal travel advisor and they'll let you know how to go about doing that. All right, and we have some questions about the food in Tanzania. So food in Tanzania is actually very, very familiar, I would say. The typical food in Tanzania is similar to what Kevin described in Ghana. It's kind of a doughy, sort of a cornmeal-based, floury puff ball. It's very similar to mashed potatoes with a slightly different flavor to it. Very plain food. In Zanzibar, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be some seafood and more spicy food. Not necessarily hot spicy, but more of like curries and things like that. But in the mainland, they eat lots and lots of vegetables and fruits, lots and lots and lots of bananas. One year I tried to keep track of how many bananas I was eating, and it was just beyond counting. So lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, lots of rice, and the students actually don't eat a lot of ugali. They'll get the chance to try it, but they will be eating a lot of very familiar foods to them. We do have private cooks on all of these programs, except in the case of Zanzibar, when they'll be eating that seafood feast at a couple of restaurants. But for most of our programs in the villages, we'll be hiring our own chefs, our own cooks that we've worked with for many, many years that are pretty good at creating a variety of different foods. In fact, one quick story, if you're going to Culture in the Crater, you must check out the way James, our head cook there, makes pizza. He makes it in this sort of metal tin by cooking it with coals over it, and it's pretty incredible. He can make both cakes and pizzas that way, and I have watched him. I just don't know how he does it. I have a hard enough time in an oven, so yeah, it's delicious food. It's not going to be too crazy. Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about our financial aid options?
Sure. So Rustic Pathways does its best to make our programs as accessible as possible to students of all socioeconomic backgrounds. So we have a couple of different initiatives for financial aid. We have our general scholarship program, which basically is for students that is a need-based financial aid program. Last year, I think we gave out something like 150 or so scholarships, ranging from 50% or 25% of tuition, 50% of tuition, and a good amount of 100% of tuition for the programs. We also have, for any international students that are out there listening, we have an International Ambassador Grant program. These are both need and merit-based, but there's a kind of more rigorous nomination process, and these are, we give out roughly 20 a year, and these are full scholarships for our programs. So there's quite a few different options for financial aid. If you want to check out some more information, you can go to, I believe it's rusticpathways.com/scholarships, or you can link to it from the programs page.
Awesome, thank you. And I didn't touch base on the accommodations in either Culture in the Crater and Face of East Africa. Thanks for pointing that out. Faces of East Africa is not a homestay. We actually don't have a homestay program in Tanzania. However, if you're looking for that type of experience, Faces of East Africa is the best option. The students stay in a small little guest house. It's actually just a building that was originally built to have little shops in it, and it's built across the way from the family that is basically our host family in the village. But the students don't stay in their home. They stay across the path from them in bunk beds, so it's 2 to 4 students per room. They do have running water and electricity in this village, and it's very comfortable. They've got a nice little yard in the back of the area where students can hang out. And then they do spend a lot of time in the family's home. They'll take their meals over there. The family basically adopts every single student that comes into the village. They're absolutely adorable, wonderful family. And so they do act as a host family, but the students will be staying in their own rooms. Culture in the Crater is a little bit more rustic. They will need a sleeping bag for this program, and they'll be sleeping on mattress pads on the ground in a shelter of some sort, a community center or a school classroom. Kevin, are students able to get in touch with other students before the trip?
So we do have students that try to connect through the Rustic Pathways like Facebook page and things like that. Another great way of connecting with other students on your program is by attending sort of events that we have throughout the spring, our open house events. Did I lose you guys? Oop, there we go.
I just put a poll up.
Did I lose you? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so another great way of meeting other students that are traveling is by attending our open house events, and it's possible that you might meet other students that are traveling on the same program. Yeah, Jess, do you have another response to that?
You can also check our Facebook page, actually. A lot of students will put up little groups or special pages or comment boxes, and they'll say like, hey, I'm signed up for Moroccan Wanderer this date, and anybody else, and you'll be surprised at how many other students will kind of jump in there and say like, me too. And so you can meet students that way. All right. I've got a question about what the best way is to carry their spending money.
Sure. So generally what we recommend is that the bulk of your spending money you have sort of tucked away into a couple different spots inside of your kind of main luggage, and that you typically only carry, you know, what would be appropriate for sort of a day or 2 days in whatever bag you're using to kind of carry around. You know, our program leaders are trained to be watching bags and things like that, and petty theft doesn't really tend to be too big of an issue, especially once we get out of the big cities and out into the communities where, you know, Rustic Pathways is certainly well known, and you know, these are very, very small communities where any incident like a, you know, theft of a student's cell phone or something like that is a very, very big deal, and it's sort of an issue of respect in the community. So we haven't had really many issues with that at all. But in the bigger cities, we do take kind of general precautions about making sure that, in your purse or your day bag that you're carrying out into markets, that you're only carrying sort of enough cash for whatever small souvenirs or snacks you might be purchasing on that particular day, and the rest to kind of keep in your luggage that would be locked up securely either on our buses if you're in transport or at the accommodations.
All right, I think that wraps it up. I don't see any fresh questions. If you wouldn't mind, before you log out, just let us know if this was helpful for you, if you still have questions. Again, feel free to email me or email our general line, and we can definitely help you out with anything. And thank you again so much for your patience. For those of you that are still here, you're incredible. Hopefully you got all your questions answered. We're really excited to have you with us this summer.
Thanks so much, everybody. Hope to see you out there.
All right, have a great night.